Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the English with Kirsty podcast. And today I'm here with a guest that you know if you've been listening to the podcast for a while. Welcome back, Jane.
Hi, Kirsty. It's very nice to be back.
Hi, good to see you again. Yeah, well, we thought we would both do this episode together because we've both been on trips recently and we wanted to talk about them, to share about what we did and why we did it and what we learned from it and how it helped us both with our languages and businesses. And so it's really a talk about that and how what we did could also maybe be an idea for some other people. I don't know, but it's just we're sharing and maybe you'll take something from it too. So Jane, do you want to start by telling us where you've been, where you've come back from?
Yes, I have. I'm going to say just got back, but it was a few weeks ago now. I had a networking tour to the UK. It's the thing it was the third one I've done now actually. And this time I went over to London and then to Basingstoke where I met you, as you remember. I don't know how much detail you want at this point, but I went to Basingstoke and then up to, via Oxford and then to Birmingham where I went to a conference and met a whole other bunch of people. And that was sort of the shape of it. And then back down to London at the end before getting the Eurostar to go back home to Germany.
So Jane did a bunch of traveling, whereas I stayed in one place and everyone came to me, which was very, very nice, very kind of them. I went to Berlin and I stayed there for a week. It was going to be a bit of a working holiday, but it ended up being a very little work getting done kind of week because my itinerary got more and more full with more people to meet up with, which was really cool because it was also a networking kind of event for me because I hadn't been back to Berlin since I started my business. So that was it was before 2012. So the people that I met there were friends and clients and people whom I'd met since I started English with Kirsty, but hadn't actually met in real life. So it was 6 people in total on different days. It was nice and spread out, a chance to spend time with different people, do different activities together. And as well, I hadn't actually planned to attend an event, but the Berlin LocLunch was moved for us so that I could go and Marta, who's been on the podcast as well, she came, we went together. And so part of it was networking with people I know and part of it was meeting some new people at the LocLunch.
It's nice to have a balance, isn't it? Some people, sort of deepening connections and then you're gaining new ones as well. And I don't know about you, I really like meeting people one-to-one, but I also find it's nice when it's not too much to have a bigger event when you meet a whole bunch of people. That's fun too. So I had that with my conference. And
your conference was bigger, but I mean, the LocLunch was quite big. I wouldn't say I spoke to everyone. I spoke to everyone around me, which was good because I was sitting where I wanted to be. But it was, I think it's good to have that balance between, some people that I met in Berlin were people that I've known or that I know quite well and they know me quite well. They know kinds of stuff about me, but we never actually had met in person. So that was really nice to finally deepen those connections in that way with people that I already feel I know quite well. But as you say, new people too. And then it's always, for the business, it's always good to meet new people and explore maybe collaborations or what you could do together, or I could find some new podcast guests maybe. You never know.
You've got more time, you haven't just got your half-hour Zoom call or your hour or whatever it would be. And I think, I don't know, I always think I sort of forget how rich it is what a richer experience it is when you meet people in person. It's like, I always use the analogy of tomatoes. When you grow your own tomato, when I grow my own tomatoes, I'm reminded that they taste much better than the ones that I have at the supermarket. But the supermarket ones that taste fine until that point. And then when I grow my own, I'm like, oh wow, they can be really good. Or if I got some from a farm or something. And I think that can be the same with meeting people. You know, I do a lot of online networking, and sometimes that's the only way, and it's really great that I can chat with people who are further afield. So I love that. But then there's an extra dimension when you meet people in person, and it's not just about finding out how tall they are. It's the
Or
whole
not
thing.
in my case.
Or not. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about when you came here, like we made those spontaneous videos, and that was just, you know, like, oh, let's come find a nice place to do it, and found the Jane Austen statue. And I thought you can do more of that, like spontaneous things, or someone
Yeah.
has an idea about somewhere to go. Because that was a surprise. I didn't expect you to be saying, "Oh, come and make a video with me," and then come and make a video with me in German. That was, you know, that was all
really
very unplanned.
I hadn't planned it either, because when I did my tour last year, I did a lot of content around it, but it was mainly written content on LinkedIn, for example. And this year I was thinking, oh, I don't really just want to do the same thing again, because it just kind of does look quite similar to what I did last year. And then I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe I could do a bit of video. And I was like, I wonder if anyone, you know, might be interested in doing it with me and appearing on screen. And you went straight for it. You were doing the, you know, the improv thing, yes and kind of thing, jumped right in and ran with it. So I was thrilled with that. And to then have it in both languages was even better.
Yeah, that was actually something that I didn't realize I'd missed. But when I was in Berlin, I know that you come to England to meet up with people here and to speak English. But every time I've been to Germany in the past, it had been just as somebody who was employed, and so I was meeting up with friends, and we just spoke German the entire time. So suddenly, I think it was at the airport, I was like, oh, I'm going as an English trainer, and people might want to speak English with me. And while that's okay, I really don't want to spend my entire time speaking English.
Yeah.
And they didn't. Most of my friends were quite accommodating in this, and when we didn't do that, we did like half an hour, so that worked nicely.
Yeah.
But I realized how much I enjoyed it, and how much I'd maybe got not out of practice, because I do speak German in some of my courses, and with some of my friends outside of the courses. If we're going to talk, we sometimes do that in German as well. So it's not that I don't speak any German, but having the language around you all the time, as it was in Berlin, was really cool, because
Oh yes.
I guess I've missed that. I haven't had that.
Yeah. I mean, I find it, obviously I'm the other way around, because I'm British but living in Germany, and I find it so helpful to go back to the UK as much as possible and just be immersed in the language again. I mean, it sounds funny to talk about losing your mother tongue, but it's really good to get it refreshed and just to be in those surroundings again. And also, sorry, family, but to be there without my German speaking family, so that I really am speaking English the whole time. And yeah, and in my case, also to meet up specifically with other business owners and hear how they're talking about their business in the world of work, because those are the kinds of things I need to translate. Rather than, again, sorry, other family, talking to my mum and dad, who are like obviously a generation older, in their 80s. They don't talk about that kind of stuff. They're not talking about sales funnels and LinkedIn or whatever. So it's really important for me to hear that sort of vocab and just be around people who are doing that, talking about their businesses.
Yeah, I think for me, I wasn't sure which language the LocLunch would be in, and then I heard it was English, and I was like, oh. But no, that's really important, to be inclusive, and when there are people who don't speak German, it's important to include them. But I ended up speaking a fair bit of German while I was there, because I was sitting with people who were happy to do that, and that felt good, to talk about some of the work-related topics in German, because I've been looking for some way to do that. I found a lot of the, for example, like with women in localization, the Portugal events, they are some online, some not online, but I've really struggled to find online German events for business owners or freelance professionals, which is why we're going to have the networking now. I'm going to say it again on the podcast, so I have to do it.
Oh, yes, it.
So that's why I decided to do that, because I think it's important not to have everything in English. But for me, it's also just nice to hear other people talking about business topics in German, because most of the time when I use German at work, I'm explaining something, I'm helping people to understand things related to English. So it was nice to be on that kind of colleague level to talk about business topics. I really enjoyed that. I mean, how do you feel? Is it easier for you to find relevant English events to attend online in Germany, or?
Not necessarily in Germany, but I mean, there's obviously I've got access to any English events that are happening anywhere, so that's
Yeah,
okay,
it's slightly easier, I think, because everyone's like so
Exactly.
intent on
Yeah,
doing everything in English. So
yeah, it's more finding time to fit everything in,
yeah,
making sure I do actually do some work in between. So yeah, that's not really the issue. Yeah, I see what you mean about the German events though, and because I have looked on occasion, knowing that you were kind of looking for those things as well, and it can be hard to find.
yes. If any listeners know of any others, I am still gonna set something up, but I'm open to hearing about more.
Yeah.
So just put that out there. So if you want to comment.
Yeah.
But so what was some like learning takeaways, if you can, because I know you went to a conference, so maybe that's a little bit easier, but what's like one or two things that you learned from your recent trip that you want to maybe do something differently or do something new?
Um, well, there are some very broad things to start with, like just it being a confidence boost, just try stuff, because when I have an idea, I should just try it because it seems to generally work out, and even if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. So there's things like that, just kind of getting that confidence and that energy that kind of, I don't know. So like if I say, oh, I think I'll do a tour, I think I'll go and meet so and so, I can actually do it and it works out. It's like, yay. So that's a good thing to take back with you, and it just carries on to other things. When I have other ideas, I should just give it a go and see what happens. I think that's a very big thing. Things like I don't know, it's a little bit less tangible, but just being away from the day to day gave me a lot of perspective. It gave me an opportunity for a lot of strategic and more creative thinking around my business. I think that's really, really valuable. I mean, without going into specific points, but just having that time, and you just think about it differently. I mean, you've got time on trains, your brain's in a different place somehow. So that kind of thing. So then I started, once I'd got on the train, and I started having ideas about how I could tweak things, and like my thing at the moment is to try and make my whole LinkedIn profile a bit more customer facing, and still retain my translator audience. I have quite a lot of translators in my network on there, and they engage a lot, but I also want to be talking to potential clients. So that's something I've been thinking about on and off for quite a while, but I also got some more sort of specific ideas about how to do that. So that was really helpful. But it's more having the space and the time. Obviously, you don't necessarily need to go to another country to do that, but in my case, that was definitely one of the benefits of it.
I think it's true, getting away, like having, for me, it's like some things that I don't know, I just got some new energy, some new enthusiasm for things. And I think sometimes when you suggest something, you say you're going to do something, then other people, like when I said I was coming, other people said, oh, let's meet up, let's do something. Those outside of Berlin, even those that live there, I didn't realize how far some would have to come, but they did it, which is really cool and really kind. But yeah, it's like it's a domino effect. You start something and then other people get ideas about what they can do. And
yeah, I think that's true. It brings energy in general, doesn't it? I think. And for me, very specific things like now they're occurring to me, like oh, I don't know, just getting used to crossing the road in the UK again and being on the wrong side. I nearly got run over in Oxford. I was crossing a road in Oxford and I thought I covered all the bases of where cars might be coming from around corners and stuff, but there was one that I hadn't noticed and she nearly ran me over. But yeah, and then shouted at me. So it was quite funny.
Stupid tourist.
I know, it was definitely my fault, but I didn't have a chance to explain myself. But yeah, but just getting into that again, and also the slightly less formal way of chatting to people, I think, when you're out and about, that you have in the UK compared to Germany. I mean, obviously it's a generalization and people are just different anyway, but in general I think you can say it's slightly less formal. I mean, I had a thing, I was sitting on a train going, I can't remember which train it was, I think Basingstoke to Oxford, and suddenly a tennis ball flew over the seat behind me and landed on my lap.
Oh God.
And it was this bloke. He was really, really embarrassed. But
That
he'd
could
been
have really hurt.
exercising. Huh?
That could have really hurt.
It could have. It didn't actually hit me, but it sort of just bounced next to me, kind of thing. And he'd been exercising, holding it in his hand and like clenching it, I think. And it somehow popped out. But then he was really chatty about it and really apologized, obviously. And I was laughing and we had a nice chat. And it was just like one of those weird things. And yeah, I mean, I guess that could happen here too, of course. But it struck me as one of those things that's just kind of a bit funny and silly. And you get into a little chat about it. Yeah, it was quite extreme, I guess. But yeah, things like that. Oh, and they're putting your name on your coffee cup. I thought that might be a generational thing or even a sort of urban thing, because I found myself, I went to a cafe and they wanted to know what my name was to put it on the cup. And I went to say Eggers, like my last name. Whereas, of course, everybody in the UK just says their first name. So I realised I've got a little bit over formal in that situation.
That means I could get one that sass Wolf if I.
Yeah, that would be cool, right? Because Eggers is just confusing because I don't know what that is anyway. But I felt a bit silly. But it's good to become aware of that again, and just little silly things like that, and it makes you feel, I don't know, you slot back in.
Yeah, I think for you it's different because you're coming back to what you knew originally, whereas for me I've never lived in Germany. I've always felt that part of me has always felt that I should, but it hasn't happened yet. So it's nice to, I don't know, because there are differences. I think maybe it's a bit more formal, but I found people a bit more helpful. But I don't know if that's just from being from London. I don't know. I mean, there are helpful people in London too, but I don't know. I think there are some things are not better or worse, they're just different. But I do think one thing that really stood out to me was how, especially if you've been doing something for a longer time, like I've had English with Kirsty now since 2012, and at the beginning, the fact that I also speak German was like a big selling point because I started only marketing to German clients. To be honest, a lot of my work comes from Germany still, but I don't really talk about that on LinkedIn. But it occurred to me that sometimes when people found out that I do speak German as well, they were happy, or they also wanted to do that, and
yeah,
it can be quite useful. And I never talk about that on LinkedIn. Why is that? Because
why is that?
Yeah, why is that? Because I assume everybody knows, but I'm meeting new people all the time. So how are they going to know if I don't tell them? So it's like a reminder, like don't always do stuff that's new. Just remember what you used to do. Remember what is probably still relevant, because whilst if I'm doing English training, the point is to do as much as possible in English. There are times when having German as a bridge language can be really helpful for explaining something, or if somebody wants to ask something or tell you something.
Yeah.
Or
even just for that initial chat when they're getting to know you to see if they want to work with you or not, then they can maybe get a sense of who you are through their own language more easily than if they're speaking English. I think that's a huge thing, and it's something that not every English language teacher can offer, right? Especially with your level of fluency, that you feel quite comfortable either making a video ad hoc or, chatting with people. Obviously, it's not I don't know, not something that can be taken for granted, really. But yeah, I see how you would, because for you it's just normal. And
I know it, and people I've known for longer know it. And to be honest, when I'm working for companies, like those clients know it, and when new people come into their training courses, then they know it as well. But it just occurred to me that privately, or on my LinkedIn, when I'm talking to other business owners, I haven't mentioned that. So that was like a reminder that you don't always have to invent something new. You just have to remember what you haven't talked about for a while.
I think that's a really good general point, actually, isn't it? And we sort of forget that not everybody sees all our posts, and we gain new followers over time or new connections, and they don't know the whole story. We have it in our minds. Oh, I've already said that, so I don't need to say it again. But actually, you do need to keep saying stuff again, because you've got a new audience and you've got people who didn't see everything anyway, or haven't seen everything anyway. So yeah, I'm going to take that away. I'm making a note now. I need to do that too.
What do you need to tell people that you think they already know? Yeah,
exactly, because it's, we're all very focused on ourselves in some way, and we think we know everything. And also, I don't want to like bore people by repeating myself. I think there's also that. I feel like if I say it too much, people think, oh, what's she going on about again? But actually, it's probably more the other way around, that they don't always know. It's interesting.
Yeah, how much we don't see because we don't realize unless you tick the box to see all of somebody's posts, then you probably don't see a lot of things. So
Yeah, exactly. I think we can make it clearer.
and how did you find, because I know that both of us we posted about our experiences. I didn't post anything. If I was just, meeting with friends, I didn't necessarily, but if it was something that it was a nice way to showcase some of your other business owner friends and what they're doing. And also I found that I got quite a lot of interaction as well on those posts, which was really nice. People sharing things or commenting or so.
Yeah, I did as well. And I did with my other tours too. Yeah, they also, those kinds of posts seem to go down quite well, actually. People, I don't know. Yeah, I suppose people can relate. Maybe they've been to the place that you're visiting, or they know the person, or I don't know. I think it seemed to go down quite nicely. I had a lot of interaction on those posts that I did, whether they were video or text with photos or whatever.
Yeah, I think that really does help. I struggle with that a bit as someone who can't take their own photos, but because I've had pictures that I could share of activities or places, and most of the time I just sit in my office and sit here at my laptop, and that's not very exciting. But if I'm going places and doing things and have images to share, that they do tend to get more visibility. I'd like to think it's the text as well, but I think having the images does help your post, and then then more people see it and more people interact.
Yeah, I think so. It also builds up. I don't know. I got some recognition. Like a few people had said, "Oh yeah, I saw your tour last year and enjoyed the text. What am I saying? The posts about it." And I was wondering if you were going to do one again. So that's nice that people even remember it that way. So that's sort of a kind of long-term thing to stay in people's minds, which is kind of the point of LinkedIn and everything. So that's good as well.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. Like you notice when people like or comment or interact in some way, but we don't think about the people who are just seeing things, and maybe they don't interact, but it's there. So the next time you do something or the next time you go on a tour, then they've seen it. It's like building that consistency of talking about what you're doing, and especially if there's some kind of, like for me, there's a lot of language angles I can write about now, or some business ones too. But it's not just like, oh, I went on holiday and I was on the beach and it was great. There is some kind of link to what we're actually trying to do with our businesses.
Yeah, definitely. No.
Not that you shouldn't post about being on holiday. I don't mean that. I don't think LinkedIn should be only for very strictly business related posts, but I just mean if you can find some kind of link to what you would talk about anyways, it makes it a bit more relatable, perhaps.
I think there are additional layers to it. Like you're saying here, I've gone on a nice trip. But I mean, like in my case, I'm also saying to my potential clients, I guess, look, I'm also going to England to make sure my English is really fresh. And by the way, I live in Germany, so I'm kind of saying that to them. I'm also giving hopefully a message to translators. Look, this is things you could do to network with people. You don't have to go to a big conference. You can also do a little tour and meet people one-to-one. So that's a message for the introverts. I mean, I don't know. This is what I imagine that somebody might take away from it. But I like that there are different levels to the message that you're putting out there. And not just here I went on holiday. Although here I went on holiday is also nice. I mean, I'm always happy to see a nice beach picture.
See what people got up to.
Yeah, it's all about connections and remembering people in the end.
But I do like the diversity because a lot of people are saying that I've never been to one of the really big conferences, but a lot of people are saying they're becoming increasingly expensive, and with some financial challenges, not everybody can afford that. Not everybody feels that they want that.
Sure.
For me, like I wouldn't be allowed into some of them that I would like to go to because I have this kind of crossover in terms of where I hang out and what I'm actually doing. But for me as well, I just think there's so much value in one-to-one conversations, because I don't really identify as an introvert, but I don't like crowds and I don't like lots of people in one place, and it's easy to get sensory overload of big
Mm-hmm.
conferences or things like that. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes you can have much deeper conversations or get to know people better if it is one-to-one and spread out. It was the way it worked out with my week. It was different people every day. So every day there was something going on with someone or a group of people that was different. So that was really nice that I had time to spend with people rather than rushing from one thing to the next, because I think you
Mm-hmm.
can try to pack too much in.
Yeah. I've learned that as well, to like really manage my time and my energy and not over plan. Partly to have time to do spontaneous things if I feel like it. Like last year, I did a quick extra trip to the seaside that I hadn't
Nice.
expected. I went to Blackpool. Um, but also just not to get peopled out. Otherwise, I wouldn't manage the whole week or 10 days, I think, if I was just running from one to the next. And then everything starts to blur and you sort of forget who you're meeting and what the conversations were. I think it's nice to have that time to reflect afterwards and get those ideas. And coming back to what you said at the very beginning, you said you didn't get much work done, but I think it's probably quite nice to have that space around it and really use the time for the meetings and just, because that is work as well. That's part of your business, and I think that's very valuable. I mean, I didn't do any translation work, deliberately didn't take on any translation work while I was away, and that was enough, just doing the kind of social stuff and the networking stuff and the thinking, which is, doesn't really get enough time when I'm in my day-to-day routine here at home.
And I think some of us maybe take longer to, like, if somebody makes a comment or asks questions, sometimes you need a little bit of time to think about it and give yourself the time to process all the information or emotions or conversations if a lot are happening, because sometimes we get an idea and can run with it. Other times we need to figure out how we're going to implement something or
absolutely
change something.
It's good to have that.
And it's also, I mean, I talk about friends, but it's also, I was doing some work related stuff there. And I think it's sometimes for me, there is a big crossover, I mean, between customers and friends, and some do become friends. But in terms of customers, it's also good to, I think we can not see it as work if we're doing something that doesn't appear to be work related, but it is. It's all about building relationships, and it's easy to feel, oh, I didn't do any work this week, but actually some of it is probably doing a lot of good for your business if more people are finding out about it, or you have content that you can then start interesting conversations afterwards. It is work. So
it is definitely. No, I'm definitely agree with you on that. I think it's very important to have those things.
So I want to go back now. I'm thinking, oh, maybe next year. So for you, is this something that you want to do? I mean, you've done it for 3 years already. So is this something you want to continue with, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely doing another one next year. The conference that I went to, which was the Uplift Live conference, is running again next year. Tickets are already on sale, so I'm definitely going to go. Yeah, and I've got a note in my calendar because the early bird price is changing at the end of April, I think. So yeah, I need to do that in the next couple of days.
To get your tickets.
Get my ticket, that just fits really well for me at the moment. They're a nice bunch of people at the conference, and then in combination with my kind of slow tour, I'll have to figure out which part of the country I'm going to go to. I kind of fancy Scotland next time. We'll have to see how it works out, because I don't know. Anyway, it's a way off yet. But I'm also thinking it will be really nice to do a sort of mini tour in Germany and do a similar thing, or maybe just go to one place like you did, and not just to meet translators, but also potential clients. Then that would open it up. And that would be interesting. I mean, it doesn't always have to be on such a big scale either. I don't have to go to a different country for 10 days. I can just go, somewhere more local for a couple of days, or just for a day or something. And I do that sometimes anyway. But as a little tour, I think that would be quite fun to do some kind of German thing. Yeah,
that sounds fun.
Yeah, right. There's so many people. So many places. I don't know.
I'm kind of torn between, like, do I want to do a Germany tour because there are people in other places, but also Berlin does make sense for me because I know more people there, and it's it's the travel, the people can get there fairly easily.
Right.
So I don't know yet.
We know
really.
Heidelberg's very nice. I know you know a few people in this area.
Yeah, maybe like Kirsty on tour
Kirsty on
throughout
tour, yeah.
Germany. I don't know, or just. But yeah, I definitely feel that it did me good, and I mean, I went to Vienna because I was speaking at a conference, but I met one person there, and that was cool. But I don't have a lot of contacts there, so this time was different in that way. But I definitely feel that I left it too long, so it's not going to be another 14 years or whatever. I would like to do something next year.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad it went so well for you. I loved seeing the photos and yeah, it was really fun. And if we hadn't seen each other just before in the UK, I might have thought about coming to Berlin as well, but it would have been a little bit much.
You would have done a lot of walking that day. We did, was it 27,000 steps, Marta and I
Goodness
together
me.
that
Yeah,
day?
wow.
You
I
had
would
a
have been
nice,
up for that, definitely. I like walking, but yeah, next time.
yeah, and sometimes it's nice. We had plans like activities going to museum, but after the lunch, it's a nice day. I want to be outside, want to walk around. And so that's what we did. So it doesn't always have to be like a lot with someone else. I did do an activity. We went chocolate making, which was also cool.
Mm.
But it doesn't have to be like a strict plan. Just
Hmm.
spending time with people is also, you don't need to fill your itinerary.
Right. Yeah, it's just being open to different things, isn't it? And seeing where the mood takes you, really. And if the weather's good, being outside and going for a walk sounds lovely.
Yeah, so what advice would you give to anyone who is thinking of doing either what you did or what I did or a mixture of both? What would you say to them?
Oh gosh. First of all, if it sort of tickles your fancy, then go for it. Give it a try. That's what I would say. Um, oh, I don't know. I don't think where to start. Um, just take the luxury of planning something that really suits you. I think that's my main key point because my whole idea for this tour was like I would like to network with people, but I don't want to go to a huge event for 3 or 4 days.
Mm,
And it's so and I realized that's fine. You know, a lot of people prefer that. I don't have to arrive in the UK and gather a huge bunch of translators for beers in the evening or something if that's not what I fancy doing. If it's my
mm.
tour, I can plan it how I like. And that was very liberating to just say, no, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna ask them if they'd like to meet for lunch. And you can be very specific. You don't necessarily have to put it out there and ask for applications. You can just ask people who you already get on with. You know, it's not big and scary. I think that's the thing. So I would advise, yeah, just go for it, give it a try, and definitely plan how it suits you, and then it's going to be a success.
Yeah, and you know what suits you. I think it's also good to let people know because I did put a post on LinkedIn and somebody replied to that and I met up with her, which was cool.
Hmm.
But also, and I contacted the people that were closer to ask if they wanted to meet up. But
Hmm.
some of the others, I just shared in conversation what I was planning to do, and then a couple of other people said, "Oh, I'll come."
That's really
Um,
cool. Yeah,
that
just
was
drop it
nice.
in there.
Obviously, share with people that you would want to meet up with if
Yeah,
they
yeah,
decide
yeah.
to come.
Yeah, it depends.
So
I mean,
share strategically, but
yeah, whatever you think is a good way of doing it, that's the key, isn't it? And yeah, very specific piece of advice. If you're going to go on the Eurostar, book it way in advance because it gets booked up very quickly. I now know this
hmm.
because I did mine using an Interrail ticket because I was coming from Heidelberg through France over to London, and then I could use it in the UK as well. So that was the best way. And you can get the Eurostar ticket. You have to pay for the seat reservation, but that's like €30 for that. But the ticket itself is included in your Interrail pass. But you do have to book in advance because they only have a certain contingent available for Interrail pass holders on
Okay.
Eurostar. So that's a very specific piece of advice, but yeah, quite useful, I think.
Yeah, if that's what you're thinking of doing, then be mindful of that. And if there's anyone in Scotland that wants to meet up with Jane, now is your chance to send her a
Yeah,
message and try and
yeah.
convince
Now
her
I
to
have
come
put
to
it out
Scotland.
there. Yeah, you people in Scotland, let me know. I'll be there.
I'll put Jane's link on the LinkedIn link on the page for this episode. So if you aren't already in touch, you can maybe meet her and find out about what she's doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just see it as an opportunity to do something for yourself as well, to whether it's for your business, for your own language skills, not necessarily learning, but just like developing and using the language, meeting up with people, doing something fun, make it fun as well. I mean, there's no point.
Oh yeah, definitely make it fun, because
fun.
that's the way you're going to keep going with it, whatever it is.
Yeah, and if anyone else has done this or is thinking about doing this, then let us know, either in the comments on the podcast, or we're going to post this on LinkedIn and other places. So share your experiences too. If you've done this, then we'd like to hear how it was for you, what you learned, what you want to do in the future, because we can maybe get ideas from one another that way. So thanks, Jane. It was good to see you. Maybe we'll see each other when one of us is on tour again.
I would love that. Yeah. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, and yeah, see you soon.
See you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.